they still have multiple paths here. I just don't think they encumbered flexibility by making these moves. In fact, I think they've guaranteed return on those assets. And if there was one thing that I could quibble with Danny Ainge, I thought Danny made a lot of great moves. I contend from 2013 to probably the Kyrie trade, he was on the heater of all heaters for GM, where I just don't think he made a bad move. Like, I think if you go through and study all the trades, I can't tell you one that they lost.
Nope.
Like maybe letting Austin Rivers go, like as crazy as that sounds, there was a point where Austin Rivers got traded to Boston as part of like 95 moves in that 2013 season, I think it was. They maybe should have held on to him because he had some value as more than they got moving him out. But otherwise, it was spotless. And even the Kyrie trade was an absolute no-brainer. You do it because if you separate emotion from what they were potentially getting, that trade made all the sense in the world. And then in the aftermath, it all went to hell.
And it's not like, like look at it, and it's not his fault, but look at what Isaiah Thomas has been since.
Sure.
It's not like you were walking away from what he was.
And maybe in an alternate universe, things don't go as poorly for IT in the aftermath. Maybe he gets help, whatever, like that's a whole nother road. I feel, it's weird to go down there. There was a thread on, I think on Reddit this week about the curse of IT. And it makes me chuckle every time because, while I understand it, things have not gone well since that deal. You still make that trade 100 out of 100. And I loved IT more than anybody. No one was more fun to cover. No one was more influential in the stories I wrote. I miss that. I miss that guy. And I'm hopeful every time I see he gets a tryout, with the Mavericks this week or whatever, I'm crossing my fingers for him because I want him back in the league and I want him to get a chance. You saw him after that Pro-Am game, but that's a whole nother road. What we're saying here is the Celtics have flexibility moving forward. There's an option for them. And the one thing that Danny Ainge didn't do, I thought, was too often assets got away without returning value. So that whether that's Kyrie walking away, whether that's Al Horford walking away. And I think Brad took over this job and goes, I'm not losing any of these assets. So I got $10 million left on this Gordon Hayward trade exception. I'm going to get Josh Richardson and we're going to re-sign him and we're going to figure out a way to turn this into something, even if he doesn't rebound his career here. And we're going to lock up Marcus Smart because we're not just going to watch him walk away in the summer. And so I think it's asset management. And I don't know the path. I don't know where this is going to go. I think there's legitimate smoke with their, with Jason Tatum and Bradley Beal wanting to play together. But a lot of players want to play together. It doesn't come to fruition. But the point here is that the Celtics can make a lot of things happen, and they have multiple avenues to do it.
Chris, you left out the biggest one. It's not only the remainder of that Hayward TPE. Even Brad said, I'm not going to let Evan Fournier walk away without getting another huge traded player exception. It's like the TPE it's the modern day Nets pick for us now.
It's the gift that keeps on giving for writers because not only do I have to write 7 times a year what a TPE is and like how it works and how it can't be combined with other outgoing salary. I do enjoy that there'll be another 12 months of speculation about, could they go get, I don't know if Harrison Barnes fits in it anymore, but all those sort of fun options about what can they do with $17.1 million. And, the speculation will never end. I just swing it. Like, can they go get Kyle Anderson? Can they give the Grizzlies something that gets me the power forward that I think they need and uses those exceptions? So it's all about flexibility and options. And the Celtics with Zarin and those guys, just like always trying to find a way to get a little something. That's how good teams sort of maximize all their assets.
Who do you think the odd man out is? Because Brad's made it a point to say, look, we got 16 guaranteed contracts right now. And I guess one thing that, like, my natural inclination comes down to 2 guys, probably the same for you, Carsen Edwards, Jabari Parker. Those are the 2 guys that you would instantly think of. But by the same token, and again, like where there's smoke, maybe there's fire. There was a lot of talk after the trade was made. Would Kris Dunn actually be on this team, or would he be flipped? Would he be traded away? So what do you think? How do you think this plays out, long before training camp?
Yeah, like when they first got Kris Dunn, I said they need point guard depth. Like they need someone behind Marcus and Pritchard. And I thought there might be a role for him. But now you're at Schroeder, and it's harder to find minutes. Like I'm worried about minutes for Pritchard. How do you find minutes for Dunn?
Right.
And if you're going to have any of these reclamation projects, they do need minutes. So I do wonder Bruno Fernando, whoever you would have to necessarily package, who is the most enticing of that group that can get you that power forward you might covet. Can you throw some combination of players and your TPE and maybe a draft pick and go get Kyle Anderson? And if you do that, do you need Grant Williams and Jabari Parker? So I think the
So you still
dominoes will
think there's
fall.
a chance at a bigger move before the season?
Yeah, I do. I think their desire to add for this offseason was not for a lack of trying. Like I think we heard at the start, they were interested in the Jeff Greens of the world, and I think they're still looking. But a lot of rosters are settled right now. It might depend on who shakes available as teams start trimming. Might be like, does Grizzlies look up and say, is it better for us to get an asset now for Kyle Anderson, or whatever your obsession is. Like part of the reason they couldn't go get a Larry Nance is they didn't want to give up the picks that would require to go get that player. So. I do think there's some trickle down still to happen. But let's say that let's put that aside and say like there's just not another move out there. Who is the last cut? That's more intriguing to me because I don't know. I think it's easy to say Jabari because he's not guaranteed before the season starts, but there's always something about, hey, this guy's former number 2 pick. Like he might figure it out. It's a position of need for them. Who are you banking on? Do you want to roll with Jabari? Do you want to roll with Grant? I think Carsen, you always just hold out hope that the shooting's going to come around. Like Danny Ainge was just always believed that he'd figure it out eventually. And sometimes it does just take time. Like I'm not bullish on that. But would you rather roll the dice on Carsen Edwards or, what is Bruno Fernando's role on this team? So I don't know. It all comes down to like what they can do. But if I think if push came to shove and Brad had to decide on the roster, today, it's probably the non-guaranteed guys that has to go just because, you don't want to, with their, especially with their cap situation, they can't just be eating contracts at this point. But also not a lot of money to move. I think they'd more likely make a deal where multiple players come out, one player comes back, something like that. So yeah, I think there's one more shoe to drop before this thing gets cooking.
There is no safer bet when it comes to the Celtics Beat podcast. I'm not kidding. There is no safer bet than breaking news relating to the Celtics happening right after you record. Okay.
What do we got?
Always. Well, guess what? We actually have news during the recording of the show. We got a Celtics trade. Adrian Wojnarowski 2 minutes ago. Memphis has agreed to trade forward Juancho Hernangomez to Boston for Kris Dunn, Carsen Edwards, and a 2026 second-round pick.
All right. Well, there's your consolidating trade. Like, I please run this episode in full so I sound smart talking about a Memphis trade. Now,
we will do with no edits, no cuts. And we're both right. Dunn and Edwards are both gone.
So I did not think Hernangomez would be the guy they'd target. Tells me that the price for Kyle Anderson was probably a little bit too high. But, look, there's a consolidating move, a player that fits your needs a little bit more. Intrigued to see how that worked. Look, now the roster's set, and
25 years old. He's a 4.
Yeah,
guy that averaged.
He's had his moments.
Yeah, I mean he's not this prolific scorer or anything.
I seem to recall him having some good games against the Celtics too, which is like sometimes key in guys they target. Like when they got Moses Brown, and we laughed about how he had the 2020 game against them.
Sure, like if we obsess over this with Robert Williams, so we may as well at least mention it with Hernangomez. He's 15-8 per 36, Perfect. At least last year.
Yeah. So again, I don't know. I don't necessarily say immediately like he's ahead of Grant Williams and Jabari Parker on the depth chart, but. That was a position of need, and it was more of a need than Carsen Edwards was trying to crack the rotation at the wing spot, or Kris Dunn finding a role, and so those guys will get a chance. Like I think Kris Dunn could, like in the right situation, could revitalize himself, and I'm hopeful maybe he'll find that down there. Maybe Carsen in just getting turned loose will figure it out, and maybe we'll look back and say, oh, the Celtics should have gave him more minutes and all that. But I think this is a move that gets you to 15. Still don't know if that will be the 15 they carry in. I think now they think, okay, Grant, Hernangomez, and Jabari, like there could still be some wiggling there, but if nothing else, they're positioned to enter the year with this roster.
Looking to see if there's anything else Woj has to add. You never know. It says deal can't be formally announced until September 15th. Dunn and Edwards contracts are allowed to be aggregated in the trade at that point. So it's looming, it's coming, but I swear, like normally we would have signed off 10 minutes ago, and that's when we would have to trade.
And then it happens.
That's when
it's funny because we were going to record a podcast. Celtics Talk was going to record a podcast today too, and that would have been the kiss of death because nothing has outdated myself quite like me recording a podcast. Same deal. Like it's just we probably have the same record schedule where we're just like, let's get this done in the morning. Boom, trade.
Yeah, always without fail. It's interesting. I like that they're adding a guy who's, kind of a young vet, for lack of a better way of putting it. Denver, Minnesota, again, just 25 years
He's
old.
been around.
Yeah, he's been around, but he's, I mean, he's not terribly durable. There have been some injuries there, 17, 18, he only played 25 games. 2020 season obviously was shortened because of the pandemic to begin with, but he was, with the both teams there. Last year, limited to 52 games. So we'll see. But I mean, you're still talking about a former, just outside the lottery. It was a 15th overall pick a handful of years ago.
No, look, now I have something to write. I'm thrilled.
Yeah,
I guess I got to go to work.